You are listening to the Big Scuba. This is an audio-only episode.
Hi, I'm Simon Rogerson. I'm the editor of Scuba magazine, and I'm here to join Gemma and Ian on the Big Scuba Podcast. Give us a listen, and hopefully we'll keep you awake.
Hello and welcome back, everybody. This is the Big Scuba Podcast coming at you. Thank you very much for downloading once again. And my name is Ian, and also with me is
Gemma.
Satellite pause now. Well done for coming in on the right button. Did you know this is episode 36, Gemma?
It is, yeah. They're racking up very quickly now.
They are certainly are. But I have to tell you, this is not Superman's favourite episode. And do you want to know why?
I love your facts. Come on, what's 36?
I know everyone's shouting at the I was going to say the radio. It's not radio, is it?
No, a device.
At the digital device. Well, the reason why it's not Superman's favourite episode is because 36 is the atomic number for krypton. How about that?
Oh, no, he doesn't like that. Doesn't go all funny.
No, exactly. So it starts going all green and a bit shaky, really. It's a bit like me when I get the price of fuel and things like that. Like, how much? Get a bit green, get a bit shaky, and you're like, that's how much?
Oh,
anyway,
well, even if we lose Superman as a listener, it's no biggie, is it?
I know, and who knew Superman even tuned into Big Scuba Podcast?
Exactly, yeah.
So welcome and thank you for joining us as always. Let's get straight down to business. If you have not subscribed to our YouTube channel, why not? There's always something going on. There's something going on every week. Just this week, we shared a little ditty for a few minutes, starting from walking up to our local gym, where we go very regularly for all sorts of fun things like combat,
body pump, spinning, swimming, sitting in the hot tub, having a steam.
Don't tell people all that. We've got to try and portray that we're constantly working out and getting fit, not sitting in hot tubs. So
that's the bit afterwards.
Anyway, there's a little video out for a few minutes, starting off at the gym, working our way through, and you'll see us in class, and boom, straight into the water because we were diving. We actually got wet.
We did.
At Stony Cove, weren't we? Had a great time. So there's a little mix of us in the water. We're both on, aren't we?
Yeah, we are. Yeah, we've both got cameras on. Yep.
Yeah, both got cameras on, and it was lovely and clear. It was really nice.
Yeah, so that was my second visit to Stony Cove, and the visibility was a little better.
Yeah, that's right. And all done with our lovely friends from Paralenz. So look out for that. That is on YouTube. And don't forget to subscribe and ring the old bell. Keep up to date with what's happening. We had a great time at Stony Cove, and that was really nice. The weather held, and that was good.
Yeah, it was a nice, calm day. It was lovely. So,
now's a really good time if you are in the Stony Cove area, or within a good drive. Now's a good time to go and have a look if you haven't been there before. Although the water is cooling, I wouldn't say it's particularly cold. It was right.
No, didn't notice any difference really.
No, it didn't. But the visibility is very good, so it's right. It's not bad at all. And that will get clearer as we move deeper into the winter.
But we're going to go again, aren't we? So
it should be there hopefully in a couple of weeks' time, all being well. So
we've got all the gear to keep us warm.
Yeah. So what did you do? We set you a little task of practicing your buoyancy, didn't we?
Yeah, I went over the Nautilus using my breath and just breathing in to raise me up, and then breathing out to go the other side. So that all worked well. Yeah,
it did. And it's quite a simple little exercise, but I'm sure if you listen to this and you're a tech diver and all that, I'm not teaching you to suck eggs or anything like that. So this is for the newbies and the people who like Gemma who've only done a few dives. your breathing makes so much difference to your point.
Yeah, and it's all getting used to the equipment as well. So I'm getting used to my dry suit still, and obviously I've wore an extra layer, so that made a little bit of a difference.
Yeah.
And I had my fourth element hood on, my fourth element gloves, so it was lovely and comfy in the water. And I
think you're sponsored by Fourth Element.
I'm a fourth element girl.
You are.
Yeah, and I had my new regs that was the first time they got wet.
Tell us about your new regs, Gemma. What's this about your new regs?
They're Apex regs, and they are the XL4 Plus. So,
I have to say, they are very white and they are very snazzy. Actually, I was quite jealous of you.
Well, I don't know how did they look in the water.
White. In fact, I was thinking about I actually could do with some sunglasses actually, just to sort of tone down the whiteness of them. But and that weren't just from your torch.
Yeah, well, less about the torch. I like blinding Ian with my torch.
Like when I'm trying to get you to look underneath the Nautilus and you're like, where? And I'm blinded and I go down there and
I shine my light in your eye.
You shine the torch back right between the eyes again. I go, oh, thanks. Yeah. Okay. Anyway, but if you are new, it is learn getting that buoyancy right. It's all, it's all a great skill to master, basic skills, and and it just shows you, doesn't it, how much different what you can do with just correct using your breath.
Exactly, yeah, and it's all practice. So the more, you've just got to practice and feel comfortable. Hopefully, it'll all come in time. That was my.
And you've only got a couple of meters above that Nautilus, and if you get it wrong, you are going towards the surface. Yeah. But we're only on the shelf, so it was fine. But you didn't go on the surface at all. You showed that you could master that by going up and over and back and round again.
Yeah. So so I had all my fourth element gear, and then having a new set of regs. But to be honest, they were lovely and light, and very comfortable.
I was wearing these new 03 gloves, and they're 3 mil. Now the water temperature, if you're looking for new gloves, I have to say the water temperature was about 14 degrees C, and these new 03 gloves I actually really quite like. Not just because they glow in dim light and dark, but actually they feel really comfortable.
Yeah, they look good.
They do, and my hands were quite warm, considering I've been using 5 mil waterproof brand gloves for the last year since I've been diving. So this is the first time ever I've had a different brand of gloves, and these are very nice. These are the 3 mil tri-season 03 gloves. So if you're looking for new ones, and they've got square tips as well to the fingers.
And they're pre-formed fingers as well, so they're slightly bent as well.
They've got a slight curve to but they're very nice. I'm quite enjoying them. It's going to be interesting over the course of the winter, as the water cools, to see how they stand up. But so far, so good. I like them. Look out for them on the social media. I'll put a little post up about them. There we go. Follow them. So also, before we go on to our guest, let's talk about our friends Blue O2.
Yep.
So for the last 2 or 3 months, Blue O2 had this really great, fantastic competition going, and the winners have been announced. There's been winners and there's been runners-up. There's always runners-up, but they've had a fantastic competition. People have sent in some absolutely awesome photographs.
There's stunning photos, yeah.
And in a minute, I'm going to have a go at pronouncing the winner.
Yeah, but the best thing is, because they've had such a good response, Blue O2 are now going to make it an annual event, and they've created a calendar, so that's going to be a regular thing now. So
I need a calendar as well. But anyway, yes, they are great, stunning photographs, and they will make a really nice calendar
on the wall.
So who's judged it at, Gemma? Who's been the judge?
Alex Mustard, MBE.
MBE, he has. And who's coming on the show in a couple of weeks' time?
Alex Mustard, MBE.
He is. I can't wait for that.
Yeah, it's going to be fun.
He is. And Alex is going to be talking about the photographs, the competition, also his own stuff, because he's a very well respected photographer.
We're just going to get down to hearing about his background and get down to the nitty gritty, make a podcast. Yeah.
Exactly. So that'd be good. So well done for everybody who did take part and send your photos in. And the winner was, here we go, Mazuyuki Agawa, who's in the USA. Mm-hmm. And it was a photo of Hammer River. And it's called Hammer River because it's actually full of hammerhead sharks. Yeah. And they're absolutely awesome.
And the picture is amazing. Yeah. The guy's literally low down, hanging, on clinging rocks, and all the hammerheads are above him.
Yeah, he does actually look like he's clinging on, because if you look at his hair, he's in a current. And the current is pushing towards him by the looks of it, and the hammerheads are going into the current. Yeah. But awesome. It must have been awesome to see. And there just in that photo, there's probably a good 50 hammerheads, and there's more coming who are outshot.
So for the listeners, if you want to have a look, just go to the Blue O2 website or check out Big Scuba Facebook page and Instagram page. The posts of the pictures.
And I do apologise for Mazuyuki Agawa if I pronounce your name wrong, because I probably have, but I do come from Norfolk, so there we go.
So start taking your photos, ready to enter in the competition next year.
Absolutely. Get them photographs in. All right. So well done to everybody. And there we go.
Yep.
That's all the news, Jem. So who have we got coming?
So this is episode 36, and we are talking to Simon Rogerson.
Rogerson. You promised me you was going to roll your R's.
I can't roll my R's. It's like Simon Rogerson, and he is the editor of Scuba magazine.
Yeah, brilliant magazine, and that is the BSAC magazine.
It is. Yeah.
Look out for that. Really informative, and Simon also writes for other articles, including Sunday Times, I do believe.
Yes, he told us about he'd been on a liveaboard, a very posh liveaboard, and done an article in the Sunday Times. So he's very well travelled, and we just had a lovely conversation with him. He was very, very good.
Yeah, really good, relaxed guy, easy to talk to, very informative, and it's editor of a really good magazine. Look out for that.
Yeah, so I think we'll get straight into episode 36 then.
Let's do it. Yep. Enjoy, everybody.
And we'll see you on the other side.
Far away, and I'll play.
Hello, Simon.
Hi, Gemma. Hi.
Hello. Hi.
Welcome to my sweaty office.
Well, it's very nice of you to join us. I know it's been some time since we spoke and managed to get the date sorted.
No worries, we made it in the end. How are you guys? Are you all well?
Yes.
Yeah, all good, thank you. Well, thank you very much for joining us anyway. Welcome to the Big Scuba Podcast.
Thank you very much. It's a pleasure to be here. Thank you for asking me. I really like the idea of having two presenter interviewers. I think that really kind of works. So great format. Good luck.
So do you want to tell us a bit about yourself?
Sure. I'm Simon Rogerson. I am a full-time diving journalist. I'm the editor of Scuba magazine, which is the official journal of the British Sub-Aqua Club. And I've been working with the British Sub-Aqua Club for 20 odd years. I first started working on one of their magazines in January of 1999. So at the time it was... They've changed Club magazine in the intervening time. It was Dive magazine, which I was editor of, which is still available as a sort of a luxury international high quality art magazine. Really good, well worth picking up. But when the two companies went their different ways, I chose to stay with the British Sub-Aqua. I'd got to know them really well, and I'm really fond of their members. And it's the kind of diving I do as well. So I have worked with them on Scuba, which is the current title after Dive went independent. So that's the professional kind of career. I got into diving when I was 92, 92 or thereabouts it was, when I was traveling around Southeast Asia. I had just qualified as a journalist and I was terrified of actually working. So I went traveling and I'm so white, I got sunburned everywhere I went, and somebody said you should just go underwater and that'll get you out of trouble. So I did, and I loved it. It's everything that had been missing. It set me free. I love animals. I was raised on, not Jack Hughes, I was raised on David Attenborough, literally. Sunday evening kind of rules were we watched Life on Earth that was going out. And that was probably the greatest education I had as a kid, was watching natural history TV programs. And the underwater ones were always the best because that's the most alien world. You know, you want to see something completely different. And the early episodes of the original Life on Earth had all these kind of weird hydroids and jellies floating around to kind of replicate what the sea conditions would have been like at the dawn of kind of time. And it really caught my imagination. And I thought, this is for kind of Superman, isn't my work. I don't come from an adventure, outdoors kind of background. My dad was an accountant. We lived a long way from the sea, and it wasn't in our kind of family history at all. But then when I went traveling, inspired by various friends, the first time I put my head underwater, it was just like a massive epiphany. It was like coming home. And I've stuck at it ever since. I'm not a very well qualified diver. I am a PADI advanced diver, first of all. And then I went on to be a BSAC dive leader. And I also have a few TDI qualifications at the lower end of the spectrum. So I'm kind of ecumenical in my outlook on diving, but my life has gravitated towards the British Sub-Aqua Club. And I spend a lot of time with members, get to know them. And there are a lot of them. The magazine I work for caters for 25,000 members. And they're a very broad church. You know, the people have a very set idea of what BSAC is. But I find the moment you start stereotyping a group of people like that, you're usually in for a surprise. And I get a lot of contact with BSAC through the magazine, through going out and meeting divers. And they're a very, very broad church. And these days they're very accepting of divers from different training agencies because it's all numbers. And I think we all have that crucial thing in common, which is a love of being underwater. So I do dive quite a lot. I dive abroad. I dive in the UK. I took up photography a long time ago. You might see my camera lurking in the back of my office. For me, that kind of became an all-consuming occupation. I wasn't very good at it for a long time, but I kind of persevered. And for me, it's part of who I am. I'm a storyteller. I love telling stories, and I love sharing other people's what I do magazine. And to be able to bring something back in the form of a picture that helps tell a story, that's a really fulfilling thing for me to do. So I've always had a camera.
Do you prefer video or pictures?
Stills, actually, stills. Yeah. Well, funny you should say that. Over the years, stills have stood me in good stead because I've worked in magazines and there's no use for video in magazines. And there's not a lot of remuneration for video, even on very interactive websites and so on. So I think you have to really devote yourself to one or the other. It's very difficult to do both. You have to really give yourself over to. But these days, actually, the way websites are coming on and the way interactivity is coming on in magazines, there may be a bit more kind of sense in devoting a bit more time to video. But I'd just be starting again. There's a lot to learn.
So whereabouts are you actually based?
I live in Wokingham, which is a market town south of Reading in the Thames Valley, miles from the sea. But we pitch up where we do for a variety of family related. Really.
So what have you been diving sort of recently when we've obviously been let out of our lockdown bubble?
I was really careful over lockdown. So I wanted to see what was going to happen with the first kind of few waves of people and see if it spiked the figures. And I think that's what it's going to be like moving forward, is we're going to receive new freedoms and then we're going to see how they spike the admission figures.
So you said you were quite sort of landlocked where you're based. So when was the last time you went diving?
Swanage last week, funnily enough. My first time diving since the whole COVID thing started. Funnily enough, I dived really close up to the lockdown as well. I got offered a trip. I do a lot of freelance work, or a bit of freelance work. And the Sunday Times, I've had a relationship with them for quite a long time. And they said, do you want to go to the Maldives on the Four Seasons liveaboard, the Explorer, which is kind of like a Michelin-starred restaurant that floats around the best dive sites. Unbelievable. So I said, I'd swim there to get to that one. I think their staff didn't want to take the trip because it was leading up to the kind of period where it was obvious the coronavirus was going to be a big significant thing. But I just thought it was a great opportunity. And actually, if the trip had been a week later than it was, I wouldn't have gone in a million years, because then it became clear just how serious it was. But as it happens, it was a really enjoyable 10 days of superb diving and food I've ever had.
Really?
was amazing. Oh, it's just insane. But this is a liveaboard that costs £15,000 for a trip. So this is kind of for the super rich. It's my 10 days as an oligarch.
Why not?
Absolutely outrageous. I've never been so well looked after. I've been spoiled on boats a lot. But in this one, there was even a little guy who'd defold your mask for you.
What? Really?
It's outrageous. Absolutely. That was his only job that I saw. So it completely ruined me for life, in other words. So I did that, came back. When I came back, it was March the 18th, and we'd gone into lockdown, proper sort of lockdown. And, wasn't sure if I was going to get back into the country. Rather hoped they might maroon me in a Four Seasons island in the Maldives. This is luxury upon luxury. It's ridiculous. But that wasn't the way it was. Entered lockdown. I've been putting out magazines ever since because BSAC's got members to look after. And they have a magazine for their membership. So we've been putting out a magazine ever since. And last week, I saw fit to go back to the water. We had a tip-off that the Viz was really good in Swanage. And it was. We had sort of 8 meters of appearance. So really good.
Yeah, I do see quite a lot posted on Facebook about, the UK diving at the moment. And, there's such a lot that we've got to offer.
Oh, it's it's multifaceted. Everything from Shetland to the Scillies. I sometimes think it'd be a nice magazine feature for every country to put forward 10 or 12 images, represent your country with 12 underwater. And I know the UK would come out of it really well because we have benthic sharks, oceanic sharks. We have colourful reefs. The reefs in the Scillies are not the spots off anything in the world because of the jewel anemones, which appear in these beautiful colour-coded communities. There's nothing else like them. We've got kelp forests. We have wrecks of all kind of vintage. We've got it all. It's just we've got tides and wind as well.
Yeah, and low temperatures, what put a lot of people off.
Yeah, I suppose the feeling of freedom that people get from diving in a light wetsuit is not quite what you get with a dry suit when you're wearing 10 kilos of lead as well. But like a lot of things, once you get used to it, it's not such a big deal.
Yeah, exactly. So during the lockdown, you didn't have to revert to just an online magazine.
We did.
Oh, you did?
We did, and that's still the case. So we're still putting out online. Essentially, the diving industry, the advertising industry, has ground to not quite a halt, but close to a halt as a result of everything. All the kind of flights to Egypt and all that stuff that is the kind of bedrock of a lot of diving industries in Europe has come to an end. And looks like it's starting up again. The signs of things coming back to life. Certainly, diving trips to Malta have started again, which is superb news. That's a sort of a big place for beginner divers, but also for technical divers. So that's a really positive thing for the industry. But we need more of these things to waken up for the industry to get back on it properly. And we need it to be safe as well. We don't want to hurry it. We want it to be safe for divers as well. But unfortunately, the pressures that brought meant that we could only put out a digital magazine. So that's what we've been doing for the last 3 issues.
Right, okay. So will you go back to paper as well?
That's a decision for the business people at the British Sub-Aqua Club. So mercifully, that's above my pay grade. I make the magazine, but the format that my clients at the British Sub-Aqua Club want to choose, that's up to them. And that's a business decision. So my understanding is it's what the members want, but it has to be made to work financially.
Yeah. Do you get a lot of feedback from the members and the users of the subscription or the magazine?
Yeah, I mean, we obviously have a letters page like everybody else, and it's usually brimming. We have a lot of people write in. We actually have a pretty good Aqualung computer up as the prize for the best letter, so it's a nice incentive. Generally, in journalism, you hear from people when they don't like.
Yeah.
So kind of a nice contented silence is no bad thing. And, we're a one-man band editorially. It's just me. So, if there's a huge amount of traffic between the readers and me, then I can't get on with making the next magazine. But actually, the system's pretty good. I get a lot of support from BSAC. They're really kind of sympathetic clients to work with, the guys at the headquarters. And in general, the amount of kind of feedback between me and the members is manageable. So it doesn't distract me from the job at hand. And the more I ask, the more they kind of come up with the goods.
That's good.
I recently asked for a load of new writers to get involved, because if it's the same old people all the time, the magazine starts to feel a bit samey. and I wanted to break in some new talent. So we held a writing competition, and we've just been flooded with entries. And people are telling, the challenge was, tell a story in 400 words. No kind of restriction, theme, no working title. Tell me a good diving story in 400 words, which is really difficult because 400 words it's nothing, it's 30 seconds to talk. But actually we got some genius replies, and there's a really nice prize. We've got an O3 dry suit, their new membrane dry suit, which is a beautiful dry lamb. Yeah, it's luxury kind of dry suit, super piece of kit. And we haven't chosen a winner yet. There's too many entries. We're still going through them.
That's good, isn't it? You've got a big number to choose from.
Yeah, a lot.
Yeah, so we spoke, obviously, your qualifications. Have you got plans to get more qualifications, or are you quite happy with the level that you've got to?
This is embarrassing because as a diver, I'm really happy with where I'm at, which is really bad because there's always room for more.
Why is it bad?
Because really you should be always on an upward curve. You should always be saying, what's your next?
But you are, because aren't you building experience all the time?
Well, I'm more interested in going diving than doing quizzes. I'm not an instructor. Yeah. I've worked as an assistant instructor for a while, and it's not what I'm interested in. So that's not where my ambitions lie. My ambitions lie in becoming a better photographer, going to more places and meeting more people. So I'm a journalist that dives rather than a diver.
And that's not a bad thing.
I'm very lucky. I've dived off like 40 different countries. I've dived all over the UK. I've got a lot of great friends who'll have me on their boats. So that's kind of life privilege I kind of enjoy.
Are you still maintaining your logbook?
No, funnily enough, I use a notepad. I use a traditional reporter's notepad. And so I treat my day like my journalism and just kind of take notes in that. And obviously a camera is a pretty good recording as well. A camera will record placing as much. Yeah. So when I'm out, when I'm diving, I'm always working on them. And typically I'll take notes on thoughts and feelings, but I don't kind of do dive stuff. That's sort of not my thing. I take notes for a story.
Yeah, good idea.
Yeah, so have you got any plans, or had you any plans for the rest of the year?
I was supposed to be going to Shetland, which was one of my favourite places to dive in the UK. That was supposed to be in June. That got blown out. I have an annual trip I always do to Lundy Island in the Bristol Channel, which is a beautiful place to dive with grey seals. Have you done that yet?
No, I have. Yeah.
It's the best thing you can do in the sea. It's just superb. The idea isn't to sort of go and chase after seals, but just go in the water near where there's a seal colony. Don't disturb them, and just do something else, dive in the kelp, in my case, photograph jellyfish. And what typically happens, the seals will come and harass you. And it's a fascinating story, actually. The seals live in these really hierarchical rookeries. Their societies are based on seniority. And when you're a young grey seal, you get pretty much abandoned by your mother after a certain amount of time, and then you're fending for yourself. So they have to work out where they stand in by ritualized play. And that's how they work out kind of what you're made of. So when you enter their environment, they extend the same behavior to you to kind of find out what you're made of. So it takes all sorts of different forms. There's fin biting is the first thing. They'll chew very gently on a fin. But if you show any distress, they typically, some of them snuggle, some of them do acrobats around you, some of them tie themselves up in seaweed. There's all sorts of behavior. There's a doctor who goes diving off the Farne Island called Ben Burville, and the seals have really got to know him over the years. And as soon as he enters the water, they're all over him. There's no kind of slow sort of build-up. They recognise him.
Is he the guy who I've seen a photo of, and there's a seal on his, sort of like virtually on his head?
I think that's maybe him, yeah.
Yeah, I think it is. The name rings a bell. We've had somebody on. I'm bad with names, and somebody's mentioned us before about Ben, and I'm pretty sure that's him in that photo. And he actually takes a selfie, doesn't he? And the seal is back here.
Although other people have done the same thing since. Alex Mustard, the photographer, took a really successful selfie of a very tiny pup on his shoulder, which was, it was one of his most successful images over the years.
Someone told me when I went diving at Farne Islands, the first time I went there, I've been there every year. I love it up there, and
it's gorgeous, isn't it?
But it's just a beautiful place to be. And Somebody told me once when I first went that you have to kind of, if the seals turn up, they're kind of looking for you to entertain them. And I said, what do you mean? Well, you kind of do something. And so I did, and they'd hang about, like I'd wiggle a bit of weed or something like that. And then like they'll be looking at you, think, what's he doing? And then when you stop, they're like bored and gone again.
Every seal's got its own personality. So there's all theories about how to keep them around you or whatever. If you're boring and you're doing nothing, they typically will swim away. Yeah. They love free divers. They really, really free divers, because I think it mimics them a lot more. The sinuous movements, having to go up to the surface to breathe, and they're not belching air. It's a very unnatural thing in a seal's world to be belching bubbles all the time. In some marine mammals, bubble blowing is a threat, but luckily for us, they don't take it that way. And very seldom does the plague get so boisterous that it could present any danger. Obviously, they're wild animals. And if you get a bite from a grey seal, it's a very serious thing, because their mouth is rife with sort of bacteria. So the secondary could be pretty bad. But mercifully, you know, they're quite benign. Like a lot of marine mammals, they're inexplicably benign towards humans. Look at killer whales, orcas, we call them. Yeah. There's no record of an orca hurting a person in the wild whatsoever. There was an incident in an aquarium with a different discussion.
It's a different environment, isn't it? Yeah.
It might have been driven mad. All bets are.
It's interesting stuff. So we haven't got to the end of our chat with Simon. He will be back shortly, but we just wanted to mention about another way you can support the Big Scuba podcast. Ian and I both enjoy adventures under and on the water, and some of which you can view on our YouTube channel called The Big Scuba. The links are in the podcast show notes. Have a look and a view of the videos. Our latest one is all about being fit to dive fitness. So there's little clips of Ian and I at the gym, in the pool, and then we go over to Stony Cove. Short video, but great to watch. So have a view, and please do subscribe. And also don't forget to ring the bell so you get notifications of more videos as we release them in the next week or so. And we just want to say we really appreciate your support and thank you very much. Don't forget to check out our social media pages. We're on Facebook, Instagram and Twitter. And there you can keep up to date with our latest adventures and podcast releases. Right, let's get back to Simon. So for somebody like me, just starting out on the scuba journey, have you got any advice?
Yeah, work out what you like and do it lots. You know, diving is full of specialities. You know, some people saying you've got to rush to become a tech diver. People are fascinated by all the corridors you can go down. I became fascinated with the challenge of photography, so I went down that particular alley. Some people get drawn to wrecks. Some people get drawn to conservation surveys and get involved with Sea Search, which is a great charity that relies on citizen science. Some people get involved with travel. Some people like to stay in the UK to dive. There's so many different approaches for diving and so many different options. I think it's just a question of working out what you like, Gemma, and following your nose, really.
Yeah, no, that's great advice for anybody else just starting out as well. It's just, and I suppose it's just building up the experience as well, isn't it?
Yeah, go diving in a place where you're really comfy. A Red Sea liverboard is a great thing to do because the diving conditions are very benign, mostly, especially if you go in the north, I'd say. And you can build up your dives quite quickly. And that gives you confidence just kind of to keep moving on, progressing.
Yeah, it's true.
We've said it's like driving a car, isn't it? Pass your test and then drive lots and you become a better driver.
Really good analogy.
Yeah.
So what changes, what's been like the biggest change have you sort of seen and observed, do you think, over the course of the years that you've been diving and been involved in the diving industry?
Well, I suppose in terms of the marine environment, we've learned a lot more about what's in the sea, but at the same time, we've learned a lot more about the dangers that the sea faces in terms of environmental impact. So, for instance, when I talk about us learning more about the sea, when I started, if you ever were to see something like a whale shark, it was deemed to be the most amazing piece of luck. You know, you only see these things once in a lifetime. This is a large filter-feeding animal that lives in the open sea. And, you know, I know people who went a whole diving career and never saw one. So it was taken to be a blessing from the heavens. Since I started diving, we've identified maybe 40 or 50 places on the planet where whale sharks aggregate. They come together usually to feed on an eddy, usually where the zooplankton that they favor gets kind of gathered up in a particular spot. So there are really good places going to Djibouti and the Horn of Africa. Has a bay called Arta Plage where you can see 30 or 40 just zipping up and down. And they're small ones. They're sort of 4 or 5 meter whale sharks, kind of adolescent level. And then in the northern Galapagos, there's a place in Darwin Island where you can see the proper adults, believed to be pregnant females, congregating presumably to give birth. But nobody kind of knew all this stuff 20, 30 years. So we're learning more about where things are. We're learning how to take better photographs and video of. But at the same time, extinctions are taking place. The coral is under threat everywhere because it's such a good climate change indicator, because it's so vulnerable to changes in temperature and changes in water quality. As you know, coral is an animal that creates its own stone exoskeleton, and inside the coral are lots of tiny little animal polyps. They create these communities so vast they can be seen to space. Absolutely amazing thing. But part of their sort of recipe for success is that they have algae. They create and farm algae that lives inside the structure, and that gives coral its color. And this symbiotic algae is what they expel when they get environmental stress. So if the water turns too hot or too cold, the coral will expel. It's called zooxanthellae, the symbiotic algae. And then it's got about 2 weeks. And if the temperatures don't return to normal, or if the stress isn't taken away, pollution, whatever, then the coral bleaches, it goes white, and that's it, lost forever. A coral head that maybe took 200 or 300 years to grow is lost to us forever. And we've seen that across the Great Barrier Reef, and we've seen it in the Caribbean, where pictures from the 1970s, you see these huge fields of elkhorn coral, but that's all gone. That's all replaced by algal communities, which don't support as much life, as much biodiversity. So in a way, we're living in a terrible time of environmental degradation, and there's a huge challenge to us. People say to me quite a lot, do you see a lot of plastic? Well, I do, but that's just a symbol of all the awful things that we do to the sea. Because if you're just a normal person who doesn't dive, the sea looks the same as it's always looked. They don't see reduced fish. They don't see acidification or pollution. But thanks to kind of divers telling people what they see, and thanks to David Attenborough programs, the public's been waking up to these issues. Sorry, I go on.
No, it's true. It's a true point.
Yeah. Have you actually dived in locations like years ago and then returned to them and seen a dramatic change?
I've been diving quite a lot in the Philippines when I first took up scuba. And I've returned to some of the same spots, and just the coral coverage is less. Generally things were better back in the day, but that's not necessarily the case everywhere. And for example, I believe that diver tourism can actually save a place from being exploited by bad fishing practice. And the classic example of that, well, there are loads. The classic example is Raja Ampat in Indonesia, eastern Indonesia, where there was completely uncontrolled local fisheries, had decimated the area around Mizul Island. And then a company bought up the island and turned it into a really forward-thinking eco-resort. And they bought fishing rights, and they started an informal voluntary park. And subsequently, the whole food chain has returned. The coral's better, the coral coverage is greater, and you're now getting kind of mature sharks. So within my kind of diving lifetime, this place has been saved by divers.
Yeah, and that's a real positive thing. Diving industry can do an awful lot for an unknown part of the planet.
Look at the Caribbean. Look at the Bahamas, where one of the first places to protect sharks was when they worked out in Grand Bahama and in Nassau that each shark has got a huge dollar value because people want to pay to go out and see them. These Caribbean reef sharks are very social and quite easy to control at feeds. So instead of fishing a shark out and selling the fin to a Chinese trader for sort of $50, each shark has a daily dollar value that runs into the thousands because of all the people paying to see them. And the local communities are aware of that as well. So, you can't go fishing for sharks legally or illegally in the Bahamas. It's an achievement that's come out through the diving industry.
No, that's good. And in terms of the types of people diving, have you seen like the demographic and the age and of female males coming more into diving?
I think that side of the demographic, I think the numbers would bear me out that it's probably about the same. I don't remember the exact figures, but I think there's about a third of divers are female, and there's always more we can be doing to encourage more women into diving. Weirdly, a lot of my buddies tend to be women. I think I like diving with women because they're just better divers in general. I don't know why. It's just that's how it seems to be. In the British Subaquia Club, there's a real tradition of kind of strong women who are really capable divers. So my regular dive buddies include Sophie Rennie, who's a national instructor, which is like the highest qualification of instructor. And she's really looked after me in wild places like the Northern Galapagos. And I've dived with Christina Pedder, who's a veteran instructor and works on. And I think women buddies, divers are really supportive, and I really like that. I'm not some alpha male who needs to boss everything. I'm really happy to sort of have a supportive, caring buddy.
Yeah,
I think sometimes you can. The male divers can be guilty of being a bit, I don't need any help, or and things like that. So yeah, I think I can see through that what you're saying.
Yeah, I mean, back in the day, I think life was very difficult for women divers, especially in the sort of from the 60s to the 80s. There's always been traditions of really strong women in the diving industry, but certainly in the past, I think that, some people were trying to dress up diving as a kind of Superman type activity, whereas it's not. It should be about making things as safe and easy for yourself as possible. And those dinosaurs are gone. And a lot of the early divers in the UK were ex-military. And
I'm pretty sure there's still some dinosaurs still about in the diving world.
It's always going to be the same in any sport. And it was the same in tennis, wasn't it? Back in the 70s, when Billie Jean King was challenged by that guy to a match, and she won it. But we need to be encouraging more women into diving, and the way to do that is to be forward-thinking. Actually say women tend to be better on their gas consumption than men. It shows that we're not all strong because we're big lads who can lift a few cylinders. Diving is more subtle.
I'm not talking about the air consumption yet.
It's one of those things that gets better and then you get a bit older and it gets worse again.
I think I'm strong enough, but yeah, it's just the air consumption.
All right, well, that will improve.
Well, I think you're on a journey and you're at a really early stage of it. And when people say, am I using too much gas? My usual response is, you should use as much as you deem necessary in order to breathe and be happy. So it doesn't matter how much you're using. The main thing is you're using it, really. So
it's true.
Yeah, I'll be fine.
So when you get given a choice, if you are a choice of, say, liverboards maybe, or doesn't matter, or a choice of a dive, if you've got a choice between a wreck or a cave, what would you go for? Are you more one or the other?
Wreck, yeah. I wasn't naturally a recce guy, but because I worked for BSAC, I kind of took on the enthusiasms of the membership, and they're a very, very recce. And I think there's more to see. Most good wrecks are also good reefs, for starters, so you get more out of it. And caves, as an environment, they're a bit of a one-trick pony. I think they're a massive challenge for really experienced explorers. And I'm not sure those guys are divers. I think they're explorers first and foremost, and they'll use whatever tool is necessary.
Underwater explorers.
Yeah, and the most cavers I know are fascinated primarily with the cave and the dirt, even though they know huge amounts about diving. And some of them make their own side-mounted rebreathers, stuff like that. But the kit is just a tool to get them to where they need to be. And the obsession is discovery and the cave. I mean, it's a totally different kind of animal. And a basic cavern that I'd be qualified and safe to go into is a bit of a monotonous environment. They seldom have interesting things living in them. It's just a sort of a nice place where light and water interact.
So what's been your most interesting wreck that you've dived?
Wrecks have all got different personalities. Most of them are memorials in some way.
Is there one that is there one particular one that stands out to you?
Yeah, it's a British wreck in the north of Shetland called E49. It's a submarine. And normally in Britain, as you know, the wrecks are pretty dark because of our super rich water. So we have green oxygenated water. And that darkness is part of our wreck diving. You use a torch. But E49 sits on a bed of white sand near the island of Unst. And it's a First World War wreck, and the submarine went down after it struck a mine, which had been laid just 2 days previously. And I think there was about 15 men inside. They all died pretty much immediately when it went down. The bow was blown off the submarine. And for me, it's like visiting it. Obviously, it's a war grave, and you have to, you can't touch it. You can't take bits off. So it's like visiting a churchyard. It's a solemn place, and it's a kind of a place of stark beauty. But at the same time, on the conning tower, the kind of bridge of the submarine, there are all these juvenile pollock and soft corals in this beautiful kind of greeny blue kind of water. It's ethereal. So there's something kind of otherworldly about it. You'll see more things on other wrecks, I think, but there's just something particular about this wreck that captures my imagination.
How deep is that?
Pretty kind of average depth. It's 29 meters to the sand.
Okay.
And obviously most of it's gradually being swallowed by the sand. And one day it'll disappear entirely. It's just us. It's just divers who bear witness. It's kind of its final identity as a memorial to the guys who died on it.
And that's the thing about wrecks. Eventually they will just disintegrate, won't they? So what you see now is, quite valuable.
Yeah, exactly. Which all the more reason which makes marine archaeology so important. You've only got so much time to record. That said, notwithstanding, there are wrecks in the Mediterranean which have got clusters of amphorae that are thousands of years old, 2,000 years old. It's pretty amazing. Yeah. Clustered, all the wood has usually rotted away. So you just have these clusters of amphorae still in the shape of the hull to show you where it all was. And these are really kind of forbidden places where, only kind of highly qualified archaeologists are allowed to go. They're really important. Living museums.
Just a little pause from Simon Rogerson. Here's an extract from Mike Fincke, the NASA astronaut, and you can listen to more of his audiobook by clicking on the link at the end of this audiobook.
The first time you take a scuba dive, in your gear and everything like that, you're either on the side of the boat or on the pool and you take your first stride. For us, it's a much more controlled thing, but it was equally exciting as we open the hatch and climb outside the door and look down 250 miles below and say, oh my goodness, I'm going, I'm around planet Earth going 17,500 miles an hour. And at first your hands say, I don't want to let go because you think you're going to fall, but of course you're not going to fall, but it's still one of those reflexes you have, and you have to convince yourself, no, this is okay, this is normal, just go and do your business, and we did.
So with your photography, are you quite a photographer above the water, or is it just underwater?
It's boring taking photographs if you don't stand the risk of losing 10 grand's worth of kit in 1 second when it floods. I take photographs above the water, but I'm a writer. That's how I started. I was a crime reporter before I became a underwater guy. And I went diving to make, crime reporting is depressing for obvious. You're reporting from courts and cop shops, and you're seeing people making terrible mistakes with their life. So I went diving to kind of feel good and to sort of do something positive. And like every journalist, I ended up writing about that. And then started taking photographs as well. Topside photographs, I do them, but I'm afraid they're just snaps. Whereas my diving photographs, I think.
Yeah. What sort of camera? Sorry, Ian, go on.
I was saying that's quite interesting that you come from that career and swapped over to scuba. And I was thinking, well, if there was any similarities of what you've learned on the crime reporting, and you thought, actually, do you ever see any crossovers?
Did I see what, sorry?
Any crossovers between the two?
What are you inviting me to say here? Well, I'll tell you one weird story. One of the first guys to import a now defunct piece of kit called the ABLJ, which was the life jacket, the early life jackets before adjustable buoyancy life jacket.
Is that the one that used to sit just around your chest?
Yeah, it was like the precursor to the BCD.
I remember Andy Torbett mentioned that.
Yeah, they're old school pieces of dive kit.
Yeah.
The guy who imported those was a contract killer in his other job.
No way.
Yeah, no, he was called Big H. He was known as. I could get his real name. I think he's dead now, actually. It was a long time ago. Big H. I can find his real name. But anyway, he imported these things as a sideline. But what you're asking is there a huge crossover of criminality and the diving industry, and I'd have to say no.
No, not in criminality.
Very nice
There's
people.
probably aspects of analytical skills.
In terms of
probably use across
skills
the two.
crossover, where any grounding in journalism will teach you to interviews and teach you the law with regard to publications. So I'd learnt all that at college, and I did it for 5 years on local newspapers, and then I started doing shifts for some of the nationals. So I've worked for a variety of publications over the years.
So what are your thoughts on the future of diving? So where do you think diving will be in 10 years' time?
It's very hard to say right now because, we're in the grip of these extraordinary times, and people are making very kind of bold predictions about what it's going to be like a few months from now. And the more bold the prediction, the less likely I am to buy into it. Some people are saying that travel is going to stop because we're becoming a lot more environmentally aware. And I think that's maybe a bit of a simplistic way of looking at things. One, because the forces that govern the world and that make flights take place are pretty implacable forces. It's the way the world is. But I suppose the question is, can we find a way to cut out unnecessary travel? Is there a way of rationing out long-haul travel so that everybody has opportunity to do it, but that we don't overdose? Some people travel a huge amount. I suppose the question now being posed is that morally a good thing to do? So we've had this watershed moment, but a lot of the vested interests in the world just want us to get back to doing exactly what we were doing before. That's the way the global economy's set up. So are we going to change radically as a result of this? I don't think so. I just think we're going to go through a pretty bad recession.
Yeah, but hopefully we'll keep diving in the midst of it.
Robot buddies, that's what I want to see.
I think you're right. And I think maybe that when it comes to different events and people talking, because I had this discussion with my brother the other day, and if you want to get business to start moving forward, you kind of do need to get everybody talking and talk about business and ideas. And his view is you need to get people to actually physically together to do that. And you can't, because my argument, we all learned how to use Zoom and Skype and all these skills that we didn't probably use much at all.
Yeah, good
so
point.
If you're going to have meetings with people, do you actually get in a car or on the train or on the plane to have these meetings? Or do you think actually, why spend the money? You're spending the carbon as well on the actual transport and getting about, when actually you can actually get people together more efficiently online and still have those discussions and still put your heads together.
It's definitely been a learning curve in terms of asking people, how much do we really need to travel to do business?
Yeah.
But also, people are really missing that personal contact. The diving industry in particular is very reliant on its periodic shows, the big expos that are held in Birmingham and Coventry, which, as predictably, there's lots of business squabbles over the shows and rival companies put them on. But I know that people who've been in the industry a long time really look forward to the shows because they love meeting old friends, and friendship is a huge amount of what diving is about.
Yeah,
it is.
Yeah, and it's about the communication, isn't it? Yeah. We've just
stimulating people's interest, making it to go diving. Social media is great for that because somebody sticks up photographs of, diving off the south coast where the Viz has been very good in the last week. It's on the turn now. And you think, wow, I really want to be there. I want to be diving with my friends. It's a part of who I am, and this is something I share with, I don't know how many, thousands of British people who say being a diver is a huge part of my identity.
And it's that enthusiasm as well that you can create, and it becomes infectious, doesn't it?
Yeah, definitely. Which is what I love about clubs, because you learn from people, and the enthusiasm is multiplied by having more people. It's really positive.
Yeah, no, I'd say, definitely agree with what little I've seen so far. Have you got a dive location still on your bucket list or wish list? Why?
I've never been to Chuck Lagoon in Micronesia, which has got the best wreck diving in the southern hemisphere. The Japanese Ghost Fleet. I'd love to go and dive there. By all accounts, the preservation of the wrecks and the lovely life on them is just beyond compare. And I've seen great stories from people who've been there. It is a hell of a journey to get out there. It's a few days and expensive flights. But everybody talks about it as being the kind of the the most fulfilling wreck diving. And there's something for everybody. There's wrecks right at the surface, and there's technical wrecks, and I'm comfortable down to about 50 meters, and in that clear water, it would be fine. There's a wreck called the San Francisco Maru, which has got a beautiful tank on its deck, and that's at about sort of 40, 50 meters, something like that. So
yeah,
I'd love to see these things. Have you dived it?
No.
I haven't. No. It'd be nice to.
Yeah, it would be.
Yeah, or put it on the list.
Yeah.
So that's one I've not done.
Yeah, no, that's good. Marine animals, obviously, I'm sure you've seen lots and lots, but have you got a favourite and why?
Yeah, the great hammerhead, the macaron. So this is the largest of the hammerhead family, and they're really rare. And I really love them because they're spiky. They look like something out of science fiction. The ones that appear in the schools are the scalloped hammer, and it's a huge diving challenge to get close to them because they're super shy. And when they're in schools, they're kind of in a slightly sleepy sort of mode. They've been feeding all night in the abyss on squid and stuff like that, and they come to that area where the different layers of water meet just to kind of chill and sort of go into slight sleep mode. They can't stop. They don't sleep on the bottom like white tips do. But the great hammerhead's a solitary animal, and it's a predator of large other sharks. It predates on Caribbean reef sharks and eagle rays. It can take out a fully grown eagle ray. They pin them down with the hammer, and it's a lot more. It's not so easy to find because they're cryptic. They don't like being seen. So there's to an extent they're ambush predators, but they're hugely powerful. They're very big. They can turn on a six, but like everything else in the sea, they just don't attack people. It's not really. I mean, they were once designated as a dangerous species because they're so big. They're as big as tiger sharks. But there's just not a record of them hurting people without being provoked or without people kind of putting themselves in harm's way with baited fish or whatever. And years ago, I was involved in expeditions to the northern Bahamas in winter to find them. And we did it 2 years on the trot, visiting these old spearfishing sites where the spearfishers said that they'd seen the great hammerhead. And the first year, we got skunked. We didn't see them at all. But we thought we were onto something. So we went back the second year, and we had really beautiful encounters with a 12-foot female, a great hammerhead. And it was amazing. It's like, if the great white is like the B-52 of the shark world, then the great hammerhead is like the stealth bomber. It's all kind of crazy angles, and it just looks unlike anything else. And we had one around the boat for about 2 or 3 hours. So we all got good photographs. And I was just this is a long time ago, I was just emerging as a photographer. And I got a photograph that made the cover of BBC Wildlife, which was sort of a real kind of serious kind of achievement for me. I'm really proud of it and still go on about it. So that was kind of signing my arrival as a diving journalist. You could take pictures. So that's my shark.
Yeah, well, that's the first time we've had a hammerhead as a
Yeah.
Okay.
Brilliant. Okay. So can you name 3 people who you'd like to take either snorkeling, diving, snorkeling if they can't dive, and they can be from history or present day, doesn't matter. So 3 people.
That's a beautiful question. I'd like to take my mum diving.
Yeah.
My mum's still alive. She's in her mid-80s, but I think she's gone past the stage in life where she'd be very adventurous. So I'd like to kind of have some magical kind of situation where I could show her my world. My wife is Anna. She's not a confident diver. She's not confident in the water at all. She can swim, but that's about it. But I've taken her to a few places and shown her the reef drop-offs. There's places in Egypt where you can get right to the point where the reef drops away, which I think is a beautiful part of any coral reef. And she's gone snorkeling and kind of held grimly onto lattice and pontoons. And she's kind of seen that kind of amazing place where turquoise turns deep blue, and they get those fish that hang out just on the edge of the drop-off. And so I've shared a bit of that world. But my mum's not seen any of it. And if I could magically show her, that would be superb.
That'd be good.
Another 2 figures from history. Well, I'd go for the obvious, Jesus, I think,
Really?
Yeah. Well, he's mostly famous for walking on water, so maybe he's got a bit of a buoyancy issue there. But, why not go in with one of the biggies and sort of, hear what a major religious figure has to say about
We've
life
had him
under
before.
the way. Really? I mean, why not? It's no matter what you believe, it's going to be interesting. So that's interesting. A third person to go diving with, my hero, David Attenborough. But I'd want to be transported back to a time when he'd be comfortable going diving. And he's not. I don't think he was ever a really comfortable diver, but I think he was keen to do it in order to show the marine life in his program. But he was
just
not
hearing talking to you as you dive and looking around.
Yeah, I mean, he'd understand things really well, but I think that part of his appeal as a TV presenter, as a man, is his level of enthusiasm, informed enthusiasm in sharing knowledge and loving the wild world. And that's kind of, I think he's obviously the greatest living Englishman, but beyond that, what he's given society throughout my entire lifetime is just beyond compare. So I think I'd just like to say thanks.
Yeah, that's lovely.
Have you ever met him?
Say again?
Have you ever met him?
No, I've not been so fortunate. So I've met friends who've met him, and obviously because a lot of my friends are in the kind of underwater filmmaking world, I've got mates who were involved in Blue Planet 2. I know Roger Munns, who was involved in shooting the amazing sequence in the Seychelles of the giant trevally leaping out of the water to take out the birds. And so they all know him. They've all met him. But I think, like a lot of really famous, respected people, it must be really confusing to be surrounded by so many people who adore you. So I don't have any ambition to meet him. I'm just really glad he's been there.
Yeah. No, that's great.
Okay. A little bit more of a simpler question on this one. What is your favourite piece of dive kit and why? What's the one bit of kit you can't go without?
Allow me to introduce you to my camera rig.
Oh.
Wow, that's impressive.
Oh, wow.
Sorry, for the benefit of those listening, I am lifting up a Nauticam housing for a Nikon D500, which has got two twin flash guns, float arms, and a small dome port. And when it's full of everything, it's about 7-8 grand's worth. And
It's a serious piece of kit.
like a lot of these things, it sounds awful. It sounds so expensive. How can you do it? But you build it up over time with lenses, computer components.
Yeah.
So it's not, you don't buy all this stuff in one go. But once you find yourself so immersed in a hobby that you love,
It looks quite heavy.
You do find yourself. Oh, it's I guess it's maybe about 5 kilos, something like that. But in the water, it's slightly negative because you don't want it with the right lens configuration. It's slightly sinks, but not too. So the idea is you add these float arms to it, and you should have something that if you're taking macro close-up pictures, is just kind of lightly floating. So you just stabilize it and take a shot. But I'm awful because this is not life support equipment. This is just silly hobby kit. So I'll name also my dry suit, which is an 03 RI100, which is a really comfortable, really dry, reliable dry suit. And it's kept me nice and comfy over the years.
Yeah. So just a quick question. With your camera, do you have that attached to you, or is that just free?
Yeah, you can buy kind of quick snap lanyards, which attach it to you. I don't have mine attached to me that much. But there have been times when I've been swimming above abyssal water, and you think if you drop it, that's it, and it would go quite quickly. Yeah. So, I have it attached in those cases.
Do you have like anything else, like GoPro or anything, or Paralenz or anything like that on the go?
It should be. It's a nice thing to do to attach GoPro to a camera, and I want to do that. I just not got around. So video is a bit of a mystery.
And choice of dive computer?
I'm a Sunto man. I understand their menu systems. So I have various. I mostly dive on Eon Steel. Yeah. And I have a variety of Sunto backup. So Eon Steel is my current beast. For the magazine, sometimes I try other computers. And at the moment, I'm trying out a Garmin Descend, I think it's called. I've had it for a while. It's a really clever computer. Here it is. And it does everything. And this will do your cycling, your kind of running, you name it, hiking. But you only need so many of these things. And actually what I don't like about it is the submenus are opaque. Sunto's submenus are very intuitive, but Garmin's submenus are, to me, difficult to navigate. So I like computers that do everything for you.
Yeah, me too.
Yeah, you get used to something, don't you? And it's always difficult to change brands or Oh, that's good.
Last question. Okay, this one's a little bit more deeper for you. Okay, so you've got a billboard. We asked this of everybody. and everybody come up with all the different answers for this. So you've got a billboard that you can put a message, a question, an image, a photo, or a statement, and you want to get a message out to all the billions of people out there. What are you going to put on it?
It's a half and half photograph of the shallows, so you can see a little bit of air above the water, but you can see ripples on sand, no animals or anything, and it's a very appealing blue. And the lettering, I don't know how you space it out, but it needs to be something along the lines of all life on Earth depends on the sea, and then a separate line, treat it better.
Yeah.
Good.
Yeah.
That's good.
Yeah. Nice, powerful image. Yeah.
Hope you like it.
Yeah. No.
Somebody wants to give me a bit of budget, we'll get one designed up.
Brilliant.
Yeah, no, that's really good. Yeah, so it's nice to hear people's variety of the questions and kind of what road they'll go down.
Well,
Yeah,
thanks.
brilliant.
They're
Thank you
really
very
good questions. I really enjoyed them.
All right,
Thank you
so
very much for your
Ian,
time, though.
Thank you for your company. I've enjoyed it very much.
good. Yeah,
Thank
thank
you
you.
very much. Likewise.
Bye.
Bye-bye.
Thank you.
Fall away, and I'll play.
Well, that was good. I enjoyed that, didn't you?
Yeah, it was lovely. Yeah, it covered so much as well. So
Yeah, really good. Very envious of the liveaboard trip that you had.
yeah, and just such calming conversation. It's lovely.
Yeah, it's brilliant. So I hope you all enjoyed that. So that was 36. Look out for that on the usual places. So
Yeah, and then it'll be out on our YouTube channel as an audio.
I know, so many places.
So if you just use YouTube, hit the subscribe button and you'll get notifications every time we bring out a podcast as an audiobook.
So let's talk about Patreon just very briefly. So just for a couple of dollars, couple of quid, you can have a shout out on the show, and for a few dollars more, we can also get you involved, and you can ask some questions. Especially when we've got some specials coming up, it's really good. You can get info. That'd be really great. So look us up on the Patreon / The Big Scuba.
Yeah, it's your chance to get involved in the podcast.
Yeah, absolutely, and that's just from the price of a cup of coffee.
$2, nothing. Yeah.
So coming up next on episode 37.
We have got Mike Valentine of Valentine Films. He is an underwater filmmaker.
Now, let me just tell you a little bit about Mike. We planned 1 hour, didn't we, to talk to Mike.
We did.
1 hour would cover, and I have to say, we sat there for the whole 2 hours plus with big broad smiles on our faces. we were loving every minute of talking to Mike, didn't we?
Yeah, he even said, had we brought a picnic?
I know. And absolutely fascinating. Now Mike from Valentine Films, if you are a James Bond, you will enjoy Casino Royale. This is the one that really stands out in mind, where towards the end there's a whole scene where the building collapses.
They're in Venice, aren't they? And the
heroine, she's in the lift, and she's struggling. And James Bond is there; he's trying to get her out. And all that is filmed thanks to Mike Valentine, his team.
Yeah.
And this comes up, and it's very exciting. And Mike is very entertaining and
energetic.
And an absolute treasure to find and talk. Loved every single minute that we was in Mike's company, and I'm not just saying. I actually genuinely mean that.
It was. Yeah.
It was brilliant, and I hope anyone who's listening to this download it. The next episode, it's a brilliant one. In fact, it's that good we had to split into 2 parts, didn't we?
Yeah, and I think we'll have him back as well. We'll definitely.
Absolutely, brilliant.
It's just endless the stories he's got to say about different people and his experiences. It's just
And what I've described is just a tiny snippet of. If you look on his website, it's been in loads of stuff. If you're a James Bond fan, you will have seen his work. If you're seeing most of
Born Supremacy as well.
Born Supremacy. The list goes on, and we'll be sharing more of this when this episode comes around. So, an absolute brilliant guy, absolute brilliant episodes to come. Can't wait to share. In fact,
so that's episode 37 and 38 will be Mike from Valentine Films.
Look out So that's enough of me running on. I need some tea. So hope you enjoy this episode. I hope you're looking forward to the next one, and look out for that coming out very shortly. And don't forget to subscribe. We need your subscribes, please.
Yeah, and if you've got any comments to make about the episodes or any questions, then contact us on our social media pages.
Yes, absolutely. That's a good point, Jem. That's brilliant. I love that. It's great. But also, if you've got any emails that you got any questions, send it in we'll do our best to answer them.
Yeah, we love hearing from you.
We certainly do. That's really good.
So I think that's it until next week.
Absolutely. Enjoy. Have a good week, everybody. Speak to you soon.
Okay, bye everyone.